Hello and welcome to another Inktober. This is my second attempt. The first one I had my mic on mute. Bit daft, but nobody was in, so I quickly started again. Okay, this is day 18. This is Misfit. And you can see a little panda here. They are struggling a little bit and they don't really adapt very well. So with us stealing their habitat, and it's shrunk to the point where they can't find food. So we need to take care of them, basically. Lots of conservation going on around pandas. Just going to do a very, very quick sound and video check. So great, that's all working. Perfect. If you could hear a noise in the background, that is my washing machine. I am hoping that it doesn't pick it up too much. Okay, bit about materials. So this is Moulin de Roy watercolour paper HP, which stands for hot press. And this is 7.5 inches by 5.5 inches. I'm using Dr. PH Martin's Bombay inks, India inks, and I've got, ignore that, that's my cleaning brush. I've got 3 brushes and a dip pen here. I've got a glass dip pen. I've got a Royal number 10 brush, and I have a Billy Shoal number 2 brush and a Billy Shoal number 4 brush. Palette, 3 lots of water, and that's just to ensure that I've got clean water throughout the live draw. I generally use 1 for the first swill, and then I use the other 2 to follow up. I will, of course, be doing half monotone and half colour. Now I've split this down here in a place that actually I don't want it split. It's too far over. So I'm just going to adjust that a minute, and I need to ensure that I'm measuring from the beginning of the paper. So I really want it about here. Just make sure we get here. There we go. Yeah, so I think about 85 here. So look, 85. 85. So a little bit further across than I had it originally. It's almost dead center on the panda. I don't know why I did it so far across. Yeah. Anyway, I think my paper's still slightly damp. That's actually lifting some of the paper up. So I shan't do that too much. Hi Jade. How are you? I think it's working now. You'll find you may have just joined the end of the last one because my sound wasn't working. Anyway, with that done, let's get on with it. So with dry brushes, I always advise to squidge them in the bottom. I don't know whether you can see those air bubbles come up if you watch carefully. There, look. Alright, it just gets rid of those air bubbles at the bottom of, by squishing it at the bottom of your pot. You don't want air bubbles in your brushes because it might pop while you're in the middle of doing an inking, and if you get ink on this, it just, it's not going to come out, including your clothes, by the way. I wear a little chef's apron. I'm not going to show you it because it's of a naked man. It's really old though. It's okay. You can't really see it too much. It is quite funny though. It was bought to me as a gift, of course. But anyway, it's kind of tattered and half falling apart. But I use it just to protect my clothes. I always advise that's a good thing. Alright, so what am I going to do first? I'm going to do an initial wash. Now I have been doing all sorts of different ways of putting the initial bit down. There are different ways, and I have been putting the darks down first, but I'm just going to do a wash. So I'm going to get my black little mini jam jar out, and I think that's quite a strong wash in there, which is fine. But this is just ink and water, because there's quite a lot of black obviously on this picture, so I'm just going to start. Now I'm fanning out here because obviously we've got some nice fur. It's always good to go in the direction of the fur. Now I'm going to go this way because I want to preserve some of the hairs coming into the ear, if you kind of get what I mean. Now this won't dry black, but it will be quite dark. It will give me a good start. So I really am after just doing where the darkest bits are. And again, I'm just going to use the brush to soften the edges first, so we look like we are fur. So I'm going to do both sides. So this is where the black is, and then this side we have kind of this pattern coming into the fur. So I'm really paying attention to the direction of the fur. This is all black. Now this will dry to a lighter shade than you can see. So I'm going to go over my pencil lines. Around the eye. You can almost see what colour it's drying now. So I can always go back in and do another layer. And also when I get darker, I can also start putting in some of the features of the eye. Even though I now can't see them, I'll have to freehand those. So we've got a bamboo stick here that I've done it kind of going over my dark areas here. Going to be lots of first strokes in this one. Good job you wasn't live. I wasn't myself. I'm impressed with a freehand sketch. Oh, you've been sketching. I saw your initial sketch. It looks great. I'm glad you're doing some freehanding. It's always good to practice your skills. So this paw here has got a lot of highlighted fur, so it's going to be quite important just to get these details in. We could imply these details, of course, but you know, the pandas are very distinctive, and all we're going to do is black and white, really. So it's good to add a few more details, otherwise it looks a bit plain, especially the this side, which is the grey scale. Now I'm not going to do some of the leaves and other parts in this photo. I'm just going to do the main bamboo. I might do some of the green twigs lying around. Got lots of directions going on all at once. Cool. Isn't he cute? So it's quite a strong highlight on the nose, so I want to preserve that and not go over it. got some tiny hairs. I think it's one of the reasons I use these brushes, which are Billy Shoal brushes, because they are excellent for details. They really are a very well made brush. They're not cheap, and I actually wouldn't buy them again because they're not vegan friendly, but I'm glad I have these actually. Some little tiny whiskers. Pandas are so cute. I don't know whether anybody has seen the YouTube videos of the people doing panda work in, well, I'm not quite sure whether it's a zoo enclosure, but it's hilarious anyway, especially with the babies. Alright, so I need now quite a heavily watered down version of this. So I'm going to get my little plastic pipette. This came free, by the way, when I ordered these bottles for spraying inks. It kind of came free with that. So I'm going to do a couple of mixes. Sometimes the ink gets caught in the end. You have to shake it about a bit. Sometimes you can get ink in without it going in the end. That's preferable, of course. Alright, so some clean water. So I'm going to do a couple of mixes. I'm going to do a really, really light mix. And I'm going to do a slightly darker mix. So we've got dark, medium, light, pure pigment here. So I'm going to come in with some of the light. I just need to check out whether it's light enough. So I'm not going to go on an area that I know needs really, really light strokes. I'm going to go on an area that, yeah, that's probably a bit too dark still. So just a bit more water. I think that's going to be fine. So I'm just going for some of the medium areas now. So this is the darkest tone of the mid-tones that I'm looking at. I'm still thinking that's a little bit too dark. So we should have put a tiny amount in there, that would have done it. And this whole area can be done. And this is how I gotta decide whether I want to do leaves or not. I'm probably not going to, for the point being is I'm a bit behind, so I think I'm going to excuse me, I'm going to leave the leaves. Okay, I'm going to swap to my big brush. Dry it off, get some of that mix, and I'm just going to do that. Come in with a damp brush. I just want to fade that out a bit. Okay. So I may as well actually yeah, this can all be done actually. So I'm preserving some of the structures between the muzzle, the mouth, the chin. If I get rid of those, then I'm going to have to draw them back in white, which I really don't want to do. So I'm going to draw an even weaker mix. Sorry, draw. When you're drawing white fur or inking white fur, you have to get quite subtle with your mixes, otherwise you're going to darken them a bit too much. And they're needed really to give your fur some depth, otherwise it's going to be really flat. So we've got a highlight to preserve there, and another highlight to preserve there. Otherwise, this can be this weak mix. I'm also going to do let's do the bamboo cane. So I'm going to do the bottom and preserve a highlight at the top. And I can just darken that slightly, so clean my brush off and come in with my medium brush and the slightly darker mix here. And I hardly want any on my brush, so I'm really scraping that along the sides because I just want to drop in here. Again, I'm preserving this white bit on the bamboo cane. So I'll leave that there a moment, and I'm going to swap to this side because I want that to dry before I start putting any more layers on. So give those a really good wash out. I haven't even thought of colours. What we got? Well, we need some of the darks that's going to represent the black. And I'm just wondering about a blue. I just want to look at, so we've got aqua. Just going to look at teal a moment. I'm wondering whether it's going to be dark enough, so I'm just going to get the end of my tissue in a minute. I can't remember, I haven't used teal a lot. Whether it's I think it might be a bit light. I think we're going to have to stick with our usual, which is violet. What I might do, I put an initial wash of magenta down. So I want to create a bit of depth in the black. I don't know whether you watched yesterday's, but we talked about the turquoise being a very, very good colour to layer over other colours, because it just changes its colour depending on what colour is underneath, as long as you're obviously using colours that don't muddy it. And this is one of the advantages to ink, because it dries permanent, which means that you can layer other colours on top without it reactivating the colour below it, which is what happens with watercolour. Again, I'm just going to do, this is where the darkest areas are, and some of the light dark areas as well, not just the dark areas. So I like to split things into 6. So I have all the areas that are darkest, and that splits into 2, which is the lightest dark and the darkest dark, and the same with the midtones, and the same with the lights. So you end up with 6 tones. And when you're doing a slightly simplified drawing or painting or inking, that can be really helpful. It's also the same technique I use in colour pencil. So we have got a bit more of a highlight on this eye, but it'll be fine if that highlight's pink. So I'm just going to carry on and do that all over there. You've got to just be aware of the end of the bamboo here. So if you're on, by the way, say hi so I know who's on. That'd be really cool. Who's watching? Don't be shy. So I'm looking at some of the solid black areas with very little distinction of, or with very little detail of hair, should I say. I'm just doing that. And the rest is very slightly patchy. Bearing in mind this is the first layer, so as we go darker we can define those areas a little bit more. Great. Just going to take a soft brush and that didn't work because this is already dried, so let me just put a bit more down. Now get a soft brush, damp brush. Good grief. Great. So for the white fur, I'm thinking of golden yellow. Let's just pop these over here. Golden yellow and orange. So orange is the lighter of the two oranges, so we've got orange and tangerine, and orange is the lighter colour. So give that a really good clean off, and I'm going to come in with this yellow. Now what I'm going to do is where I can see the darkest of the lights now, that is going to be pretty much orange, but I'm just going to initially mark it out with the golden yellow, and that's because it brightens up where I will put the orange in a bit. So I've missed a... I think his muzzle needs to come down a little. There we go. More golden yellow. Oh, hello, Mareke. Let's see if I can get your name right. How are you? Sorry you missed it. I did put an announcement out on all sorts of pages and the group chat. So all of this is going to be yellow, with the exception of a few highlights. Where are those highlights going to be? Just pop a couple there and a couple there, a couple there. Might not pan out, but right, let's do that bottom while it's still wet. And let's go for the bigger brush. Great. Excuse me. Alright, I want a really, really, really weak mix of turquoise. So I'm going to go with the turquoise mix here. And I'm just going to, I only want a tiny bit of this. So let's see. Really want a nice light mix. So dry my brush off, and I'm after bringing this light shadow in. That could go a little darker actually. And I'm just going to do around his nose. So we've got this, again, we're looking at this highlight. Great. Oh wow. You're alright, you've only missed the initial wash. Let me slurp on my cold tea. As usual, I have a way of working that just tilts my work to clockwise direction. I'm liking Panda, he's so cute. So the end of the bamboo is yellow, but I am going to do it bright green. So I'm going to get my... It's hardly worth the dip pen, unfortunately. I'll get to do the dip pen right at the end. So I'm just going to pop a bit of pure pigment on there. And just get that. Get that end of bamboo in. It's the only bit of green. I perhaps probably could do with putting some leaves in, maybe. But then if I do one, I've got to do lots of them, and I'm behind. So maybe I needed to reverse the image and do the side colour, but the other side. But hey ho, there we go. It's done now. Okay. So I'm going to swap to the black side because I think it's relatively dry. Right. So all I'm going to do is darken up some of these dark areas. So I'm going to go in with my thin brush. Medium brush. Yeah. And I'm going to have the dark mix again. So this is my dark mix. I'm just going to go over it, but I'm going to do less strokes, so I'm going to give it a bit more depth, hopefully. I'm going to start just adding some of those layers in. So most of this needs a little more depth. But there is a highlight I think we could do well with preserving, actually. Lots of concentration here. Oi, OY at the nose is a green spot. Oh, is that supposed to be Y at the nose? Is there a green spot? Because that's the other end of the bamboo. If that is a Y question, that is. I'm just going to dab at that. It's just another way of laying down a bit of lighter colour. You just put some down and then dab it away. Probably just swap to my smaller brush here. It's a bogey. So much for me not doing too many details. Yeah, it's an idea, but I'm going to stick with my formula. Oops. I think I push it with my hand. It's a mystery. So I'll do some washes in a minute, because these bits actually are quite dark. So I'm going to do this mix initially. Actually, let's get a different brush, and I do need to let that dry. Actually, so what do I want to do? I want to come in with this one here. It's kind of quite messy fur here. I'm just going to put in a touch of that darker mix. I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to swap sides and have a sip of my cold tea. It's not tea, by the way. It is pucker, peppermint and licorice. Delicious. How are we doing? 1 hour. Okay. I'm mindful I want to get ahead today if I can. I'll do one today and possibly one later on tonight. So I'm going to start adding some orange here, and initially I'm going to use a weaker mix. And I need my slightly bigger brush. Just make sure that's nice and clean. It's a beautiful day here, by the way, in Cornwall, and I have earmarked this afternoon for a bike ride. It's my first one since my op, so quite excited to get on my motorbike again. Just a bit too much on there. Use some of that for over here. It's always a good practice this for fur, because if you can draw fur in watercolour inks with a black pen as well, then you're really going to get the principles of drawing fur without even touching a pencil and shading. So just gonna let's look at doing a layer of turquoise a minute, but I want this mix, so not the light mix. I'm just gonna see how this looks. Let's do it on the ear actually. It's great. Actually, I'll do all that area. Well, don't know whether you can hear that hum. That's my motorbike, that is. I like the green that's coming through on the yellow highlights I put in. Looks like an iridescent panda at the moment. Right, so do I need... I'm going to pop a bit of the pink, so magenta. Use it by its proper name. I'm going to take most of the water out of it, so I want to get some nice thin strokes. I just want to put in there. And I just want to bring in some tangerine as a slightly darker orange, and just going to get my ickle brush. Alright, we're going to start on some of the bright, so I think pretty much other than the bamboo, this side is done, so I just, obviously I've got to do a wash on this side, sorry, the bamboo here. In fact, let's do that wash now. So, the darker of the two mixes, and just going to come in with the medium brush just to do some of those fur bits. So you can see how light that's drying. I'm going to give this another coat up here. Get that dry. And then I'm going to come in with some nice bright colours, and I'm going to come in with the dip pen, I think, on the Do I do purple? Let's have another look. Think. Actually, right, okay. No, what I'm going to do is bring in the violet mix. He's doing tyre pressures. I might have to finish this off this evening. Actually, right. It's thinner brush. Again, we're just darkening it up, and then we're going to come in with some pure pigment. Great. So with this a bit drier, I'm just wanting to come in to do the bamboo. And actually I'm going to come in with a darker mix. Try not to smudge what I've done. Shaky hand. Obviously, need food. And damp brush. need to put a bit more in this down. Damp brush. Just try that again. So I want a slightly uneven texture to this. Good. Great. I tell you what, it's a real distraction because right at the back here, I'm looking straight at it. Actually, that was Mark's bike he had out, and he's just pulling into the back driveway on my bike to check the tyre pressures before we go out. He just grins at me through the back window because he knows. Alright, for a couple of minutes. I will try and get this done. Try. So just coming in now with some pure pigment. I'm probably not going to finish this, but I will look at finishing it off properly tonight. So I'm just doing some of the darkest areas. It's been ages actually, it's been about 6 weeks, 7 weeks maybe, since I've been out on my bike. Whew, too long. So what what's happening here is I don't need all the strokes. I just want the strokes at the edges. And the bikes are ready to go. So well, you never know, I might get it finished. Right, so let's do a quick swap. Did my lesson done all my tyre pressures. Excuse me. Oh no. Sorry about that. Um, come back for another live, I will be. You'll need to do artwork anyway. Yep. So just got to do a black on this side, and then I am done. So I will finish it. But I will be, as I said, coming back in for another live draw later on. The prompt is swing, I believe. So yeah, you might not get it initially. Right, okay, so what do I want? I want just pure black. Let's do that. This won't take long. I'm so excited about getting on my bike. You can't tell, of course, no. Nearly there. Great. Pretty much done. There. So, just a reminder. Day 18. And this is Misfit. Of course, pandas are endangered, so we'll do a little bit of a write-up for it, but it won't be until later because I'm going to get out on my motorbike. So I might add to this a little bit later. I'm going to see how it looks. I'm thinking I might add some more oranges, but right now I'm going to go and have some fun, and I shall be back later on, hopefully, to do another one. I want to get ahead. I'm 2 days behind at the moment, so I'm hoping to get at least another one done today, and it's all drawn out, all ready to go. So hopefully I can get at least one day ahead today. Alright, thank you ever so much, guys, for joining me and for keeping me company and having a chat, and for the thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and come and follow me on Facebook as well. You'll get notified of my live draws then. Alright, thanks a lot, folks, and I shall catch you very soon. Bye for now.